see this real quick. It's 4:39. Let's go ahead and get it. Let's just go ahead and get this. I'm gonna drop it for you. Stop, look, and listen. Please stop resisting. It's a new day. Let's try a new way. Jesus put an offer on the table, and everyone out there is now able to come home with God in your heart. You're never alone if you believe me. You don't need that weed. Give Jesus a hug and put down those drugs. The victory over death is already won. So why are you picking up that gun if your spirit is activated and think? Why do you need that alcoholic drink? Because the devil tells you, he rules you, he fools you. But the minister is here to school you. I'm here to preach. I'm here to teach. And it's you I'm trying to reach through this song that I composed. When Jesus comes back, only God knows. Are you ready or are you sitting heavy? Are you ready or are you sitting heavy? You won't be if you follow me. Alright, come on with it now. Oh God, what can I say about thee? You still love us sinners and you offer your grace for free. I'm not worthy, but you still search me out of a life of sin. And with Jesus' help, I know I can win. I love serving my Lord. He opens the door to a relationship with God. This is the only way in. In the name of Jesus, I always pray and I lay myself as a footstool for the lost demons. I know that for me. It's not true to be a believer, but I'm not with my soul as a hand of the deceiver, a wicked devil who brings nothing but trouble. I put my desires in ice and long for reaching paradise. A day with no pain, no stress. You gave me the weight, and now I'm blessed. You can test me, let the devil stress me. But baby, hell is one place I don't want to see. So stop, look, and listen. Please stop resisting. It's a new day. Let's try a new way. Are you ready or are you set heavy? Stop, look, and listen. Please stop resisting. It's a new day. Let's try a new way. Minister, Brother Darren. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Peace, everyone. Minister, Brother Darren. I'm coming at y'all real. And that's what I did. It's really hard to be a Christian in 2001. Yes, it is. Everybody seems to have a double standpoint. And we don't get no respect in the world. We are considered weak. We are considered strong. We are considered dumb for believing in the book. But yet, these people have come forward. And you see what the world is going through. We get no credit. So, this is for those who are faith, who are faith on Jesus. Let's get it. Every day I dance before the Lord. So I take it to Jesus like an ascension cord. I walk upon Christ. That's with my name is in the book of life. Let my light shine. Let it broadcast worldwide. I let Jesus be my God. And if he lets me live another day, I continue to talk to the people and say, God, man, stop sinning and talk to God. And start winning. I roll with the Lord who is in control. Heaven is my home, this earth is the first level. I help my fellow man deal with the devil. He's a liar, he's a fraud, his desire is to keep me away from my God. The most people I come off as righteous, but if tempted, I might just do a few of the things that God can't stand. He frowns on every day. I've been reborn, I've been hit with many opportunities. I cannot remain in unity with the Holy Father. Sometimes I wonder, is it really a father? I'm remain devout, but it feels like I'm missing out. Most of the people that I meet who lie, steal, and cheat seem content while Christians like me, our time is spent struggling. It should be the other way around. I'm not complaining, but I need to tell someone who's living it up to give it up when they're posting high. Doing right is a headache. There's got to be a better road to take. You know, a middle ground between Jesus and Satan. I know who follow me. I'm not convinced of what I'm waiting for. Satan is winning the battle, but God is winning the war. Every day I dance before the Lord, so I take the next to Jesus like an extension cord. I walk around the Christ as long as my name is the book of life. Let the light shine. Let it broadcast worldwide. I let Jesus you I didn't get it. I bet you I didn't get it. I help my soul, man. Nope, right there. He's a liar, he's a fraud, he's a liar, he's a secret away from my God. What else? Struggle every day to stay on course. I'm behind the enemy line, so I use the word of God as my force, my resource. Becoming and being with the negativity that surrounds me, the devil has a belt on my head. Sometimes I scratch coming outdoors. I didn't get that either. I feel like I've been trapped before. No. But I'm not going to go back in. Play his mind game, so he can't hurt me where it counts. That's the word thing. He tries to distract me physically, financially. But these things don't mean jack to me. I turn my back to me. It's not easy. It's in man, things could be greedy. So I always want what we can't have. A material thing is something to be hate. Don't make me laugh. A beautiful event with the difference is all show. The both of these men will take me where I got to go. But if I cheat on the hill, then I'll lose all protection. For a house, for election, to be under the direction of a sick demon. To go into own my soul, no thanks. I roll for the Lord, said control. Every day I dance before the Lord, so I say things like an extension cord. I welcome all the Christ along with my name within the book of life. Let my light shine, let it broadcast worldwide. I let Jesus be my guide. He let me live another day. Opportunity to come to the people and say, stop being selfish, stop spinning. Come to God and start winning. Minister Brother Darren. Get it. Welcome to the Minister Brother Darren Show. And I am Minister Brother Darren. I just want to say that I love Jesus. And that's the title of this song. I love you, Jesus. We'll follow you wherever you lead us. I love you, Jesus. Don't let the devil deceive us. I love you, Jesus. Hey. I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus.
I love you, Jesus.
I love you, Jesus. Or let the devil deceive us.
I love you, Jesus.
I love you, Jesus. We'll follow you wherever you lead us. Let the Holy Spirit lead us. And one more time. I love you, Jesus. All right, y'all, let's get it. Let's do the Bible study. The minister, Brother Derek. Yo, let's get it.
All right, let's get it. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm running late tonight, and it's my fault because I stayed up. We stayed up till 4 in the morning last night. I got up today. I'm ashamed of what time I woke up today. Because I got off last night. I went in there and I made them leg quarters. And I watched the Friday Night SmackDown. Well, I got to the first hour. I fell asleep around 5 in the morning. So we running behind today. We haven't stayed up that late in a long time. So since it's already going on 9 o'clock, instead of doing a traditional sermon, we'll do Bible study and turn it into a sermon. Our topic tonight is Matthew. Matthew 25. Jesus gave messages to the Christians in a series of parables because he knew that the pagans wouldn't take the time to dissect the meaning. They would just look at it and keep moving. And so he can get a message out to the Christians without them knowing it. There's an old saying. I won't say the race of people that it was aimed against, but it says if you want to hide some knowledge from some people, put it out in the open. They'll never read it. And that's what these parables are. Jesus is giving a message to his followers, and he doesn't expect non followers to get it. He doesn't expect people that pretend to be followers to get it because they won't take the time to dissect what the meaning is. So let's get started. How's everybody doing tonight? For those of y'all that wondered why we stayed on so long, Bobcat didn't like the Bluetooth speaker that we use. He says he doesn't like how it sounds, and he donated some money to get a Bluetooth speaker, but he didn't donate enough to get the one that he wants us to have. So we were trying to find it cheaper, and we didn't have much luck. The one that he wants does several things. It doesn't just play music. It's also a phone holder. It's a power bank. It's a headlight. And it comes with a horn, a loud one. But it's expensive. You get all those things in one thing, but it's expensive. So I don't know what he's going to do, but we'll see. He wants us to have that one. I'm not in no position to help. Be honest with you, the one we got, y'all say is too loud. So this is something that he wants. So we'll see what Mud Duck does. But we have a sermon to do, so let's get to it. Let me share my screen with you here. We're going to be looking at Matthew 25. Now I find it strange that I got the window open, it's not showing. Let me come back again. There it is. Matthew 25. We're going to look at this and we're going to break down what was Jesus trying to tell the people at that time and us. Jesus says, at that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. For those of y'all that don't understand what he means, back then, a woman's virginity was everything. A man didn't want a woman. I shouldn't say that because you got cases of King David and others. But most men did not want to marry a woman unless she was a virgin. Unless her husband died, a man didn't want a woman that was soiled by another man. It is a virtue. A woman can only have one husband. A man can have as many wives as he can afford. A man that didn't take care of his wives was punished. A woman who let a man that wasn't going to keep her forever was also punished, sometimes by death, depending on where you lived. When a young man wanted to get a bride, the girls would get themselves together, put on their prettiest dress, and they would get their lamps. And the lamps let the guys know that they were virgins and they were ready to be married. And they all hoped that one of them would get picked to be married. The same way some people hope when they apply to a college, they get accepted. This was their way of applying for a husband, because back then, a woman was judged by how good a wife she was, not how good she was. Keep that in mind. I know some of y'all women with the women's lib, y'all might be offended by this story, but it's the way it was. At that time, the king of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of the 10 were foolish, and 5 were wise. The foolish ones took their lamps, but did not take any oil with them. The wise ones, however, took oil in jars along with their lamps. The bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight, the cry rang out, "Here is the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then all of the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish one said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out." I need y'all to catch this part because when we started, I played you the song. When Jesus comes back, only God knows. Will you be ready or will you be sin heavy? That same theory applies here. The women were waiting for the bridegroom. For the groom. They were waiting for the bridegroom, the potential man that wants to take them and take care of them for the rest of their life. This is what they are trained from. The minute that they are born, they are trained to be a good wife. Just like a fighter that's training for the fight. You waiting for the championship fight. The champion manager come by and say, "Hey, our champion wants to defend the title against you. If you're not ready, you miss that opportunity." These ladies have been trained to be wives, but they don't choose the husband. The husband choose them. And they knew that a potential husband was coming to make one or two, however he could afford, his wives. And they fell asleep waiting for him to come. See, he arrived when they wasn't ready. The same way that Jesus will arrive. Most of us won't be ready. You see how these tie together? When Jesus arrives, most people will not be ready. That's why I asked in that song, are you ready or are you sin heavy? If you sin heavy, he's not going to take you up in the rapture. That's what I mean when I say it in that song. Are you ready? These bridesmaids fell asleep. They weren't ready. But of the 10, 5 of them really weren't prepared. Because, see, you have to have the lamp. The lamp lets the groom know that you are ready. And when you don't have your lamp on, it tells the groom to pass you by. The same way when Jesus comes in the rapture, he's going to pass a lot of you by. Are you getting the meaning of this parable? The bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight, the cry rang out, "Here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish one said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, our lamps are going out." What are the people that's going up in a rapture going to be asked by the people that's still down here on earth? Can you grab me and pull me up with you? When you get up there, can you tell Jesus to come back and get me? That's what these ladies are saying to the ladies that are ready. Give us some of your oil. You're going to be asking people, "Hey, can I hang on to your heels and ride up with you. They're going to be like, no, you're going to drag me down. Well, can you speak on my behalf when you get up there so he can come back and get us? They're going to be like, no, I'm lucky I'm going. Oh, yeah. He might take a second look at me. No, you on your own. That's what the ladies are saying. No, there might not be enough for us and you. Instead, go to those who sell and buy some for yourselves. But while they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the others came out and said, Lord, Lord, open the door for us. But he replied, truly, I tell you, I don't know you. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know the day or hour. Do y'all understand what Jesus is saying? Keep watch. Be ready for when I come back, because you don't know the day or hour. Jesus doesn't even know the day or hour. And he the one coming. Will you be ready? Will you have your lamps shining? Will you be ready? I've been waiting for you, Jesus, Yeshua. Come on. Take me. I'm ready to go. Or will you be running around? Oh, I got these sins I ain't tied up. Will you be doing something sinful when he come? Will you be trying to clean yourself up or clean your situation up? And by the time you come run back, all right, I'm clean, I'm ready, I'm purified. Jesus is gone. And you stuck down here on this earth to deal with the 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls. Will you be ready? Because Jesus says several times, people are going to call him Lord, Lord. And he's going to say, I don't know you. I prophesied in your name. I've done many works in your name. I don't know you. Will you be ready? Will Jesus know who you are? He's coming for his people. But his people got to be ready. These ladies were not ready for the bridegroom. And they got locked out. It's going to be a lot of people locked out. Or should I say locked down? Locked down here on earth. With the earthquakes. With the 100-pound hails coming down. With the mountains crumbling so they can't hide. With the big giant locusts biting and stinging them like scorpions over and over and over again. And guess what? They ain't gonna die. They're gonna want to die. The same way those 5 ladies that got locked out, they missed the opportunity to get married. Back then, an old maid was looked down upon. Men did all the work back then. Those of you who know the story of Moses and the women at the well. The father was old, and all he had was girls. The girls had to work the farm. The girls had to go to the well to get water. They were made fun of and mistreated by the men because they were doing man's work. They had no business being out there. But they had no brothers. And they had no husband. So Moses became the husband. And then Moses had children with that woman. And finally, they had men. He's with them for 40 years. But this parable is telling you, Jesus is saying, when I come back, will you be ready? The teaching that you've been given did not prepare you for me. I can't accept you. Not in the state you're in, I'm not taking you. Call me Lord, Lord, all you want. Yeah. I'm not your Lord. The devil is your Lord. You got the devil all over you. What are you coming to me for? Go to him. Anybody have any comments on the first parable that Jesus told? Anybody? Anybody have a misunderstanding? Anybody don't understand what Jesus was trying to tell you? Let's continue on. Jesus says again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another he gave 2 bags, and to another he gave 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went out at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag of gold went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. You got to understand this. The master was going on a long journey. Y'all have to understand that slavery has always been around. But what made slavery in the United States and in the UK worse than the other slaveries was, even though you were a slave, you could still be a citizen. You had rights. You served, normally you served 7 years and you were released. Even the first slavery in the United States, they brought citizens, the scourge of the earth, people out of jails. They brought them over to the new land and told them, I'll pay your way over here. You're going to repay me by working for me for 7 years. Then you'll be free. The problem is the people look like them and they kept running away. And they will run to another colony, another settlement, and marry somebody there. And that person would say, well, no, this is my husband or this is my wife. What do you mean? It didn't work. But slavery, where you had no rights at all, where you wasn't even considered a human being, that was done in the United States. I believe that the Arab slavery was the worst. but the people were allowed to gain power. They just wasn't allowed to produce children. Which in a way negated that power. That's why it's not a lot of black people in the Middle East. The Middle East had more African slaves than anybody, 10 times as many. But there's very few black people in those areas because the first thing they did was castrate them. And some of them made it and some of them didn't. But the ones that did make it, they were soldiers. They guarded their harems. Some was able to reach political power, but none of them could produce children because right when they bought them, first thing they did was castrate them to make sure they didn't taint, they didn't mix in, they didn't blend in. So they weren't able to reproduce, but they could rise to levels of power. But without reproducing, when they died and they stopped the slavery, guess what? The black people died out. They died out. So in this country and in Europe, they encouraged the slaves to reproduce because they were like money. The more slaves you had, if you got broke, you could sell them. If you needed money, you could sell them. So, of course, the more slaves you have, you wanted them to reproduce. You didn't mind them matching up. They make you more money. But the marriages didn't mean anything because you can always sell them off. And just because you jumped over a broom, it might mean something to the slave. It don't mean nothing to the owner. He needed some money, he gonna sell you. He don't care if you got 10 kids and a wife. He needs some money, he gonna sell you. If there's somebody that wanted some kids and you had some, he would sell them. There's nothing you can do about it. So it's different levels of slavery. But this master had 3 slaves and he gave one of them 5 bags. That means he thought very highly of this slave. I don't like the word slave. Maybe you could say butler or you could say assistant. You know? But he gave, we'll just use the word servant. One of them got 5 bags, one of them got 2 bags, and one of them got 1. The one that had 5 doubled the money and had 10 bags of gold when the master suddenly returned. The one that was given 2 bags of gold, he turned it into 4 bags when the master suddenly returned. But the one who he only gave 1 bag to, and you know it's a reason why he only gave 1 bag to, because he knew that this guy was iffy. He knew the guy wasn't really trustworthy. He only gave him 1 bag. He went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. So, after a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. Now, notice, when the man returned, he settled the accounts. But I want you to notice that the first one, he doubled the master's money. The second one doubled the master's money. The third did nothing with the master's money. if y'all not understanding this parable, let me break it down for you. I'll use myself as the example. If I look back to the middle of November of 2017, when I was eating generic Cheerios for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if I was this third servant who hid the master's money in the ground, I would still be eating generic Cheerios. I wouldn't be getting off of here and going in there and making some leg and thigh quarters and rice. I would still be eating the Cheerios. Jesus is making an example of what do you do with what you've been given, what you have been given. Another example he uses is a tree bearing good fruit. If you're in the same position that you in 4 or 5 years, that you in today, are you producing anything? Are you taking advantage of what you do have and trying to make something out of it? Look at where I was living back in 2017. Then look where I was living in 2018. Now look where I'm living in 2021. And I'm still not done. I'm trying to get on the first floor. There's been movement. There's been an upgrade, as y'all young folk like to say. When you keep saying to me, I'm not in the same position, and if I am, I'm trying to get to a better one. Look at the live streams that we used to do when I first started. Look at the live streams that we do now. Have I not, with your help, upgraded? Look at the mobile live streams we used to do when I used to walk around. And I had a selfie stick in one hand, and it was a little $3 selfie stick that we got off Amazon. A used one. And I used to drag around that dolly cart that y'all got me. Go back and look at them videos and look now. I went from having to carry bags in my hands. And in the wintertime, my hands would get so frozen that I would have to stop and sit down. Go watch the videos. And then we got the dolly cart. And it got better. Then I tried the skates, remember? And kept falling. Then on No Night by Chaos got me that first little scooter bike. And then I got the Swagtron, the little bike. And then we got Bessie over there. Go look at the difference. Have I not upgraded? Have I not always gone ahead? Have I stayed in the same thing? You know, winter time's coming up now. It only take us 5 minutes to get to the market. Back then, it took an hour to go to the market. Don't believe me? Go look at the videos. I can tell you the resting places that I had. And I would sit down at them places for at least 15 to 20 minutes. When we walked from the market, the first resting place was where them 3 abandoned stores are. Right there where the 4-way stop sign is. After we do the weed moment, before we turn and go up the little hill, that was the first rest stop. The second rest stop is when we go up that hill and then come down the hill where that stop sign is, the little store right there. But there's like a little church thing. And we would sit down on them steps. The next stop would be we will walk all the way down to that light I always complain about. And we would cross over to the other side where the school is. And I would sit at the wall right there. And after sitting on the wall for 10 to 15 minutes, we will walk up that hill and sit at the last part of the wall, the little wall go all the way up the hill. We will stop and we will rest right there. We would sit there for 10 minutes. Then we would walk back up by the church and make the right. And at that bus stop, it used to be a bench there. It's not there anymore. They took it. We used to sit on that bench. And then we used to walk down the mountain and we would sit on them stairs that's halfway down the mountain. And then we would continue on to the house. It would take us about an hour and 20 minutes to go to the market. I did a video this week where we went to the market and we came back in 20 minutes. There's actually a time because the cameras and the phones wasn't charged up. I jumped on the bike and went up to the market and came back in 15 minutes. Didn't record it, but I went up to the market and came back in 15 minutes. Put the food away and came here and went live. Nothing was charged up. That was the day I came home from the hospital. Remember? I came home from the hospital. I said I was going to go in that market. But instead, I came straight home because I needed the racket cane. And I spent 2 hours, 2.5 hours putting the rack together. And then I rode up to the store and got some food and came right back. And then came live. We didn't record that. That's the first time I went out the house without recording anything. And I don't know how many years. But I did that trip in less than 20 minutes. I wasn't even in the store but 4. I went right in there, got some stuff, came right back out because I didn't know how the rack was going to hold up. So I didn't steady the rack. Having these bikes takes an hour off going to the market. Sometimes I would go to the other market, not because we needed to, because they had been fixed the bike rack, but to get the extra content. Because we get to the market so fast now. When we go down to the pharmacy first, and I'll be re-showing the video, I keep skipping past the first ride down there because it's so fast. Now on the little 250 watt bike, it didn't take us long to get down there either, but got done. Because we can stay in the street and don't have to get on the sidewalk and no people in the way. We literally, if we make the lights, we can be down there in 3 minutes. If we don't get held up by traffic or the lights, we can be there in 3 minutes. I remember when that day I walked the social services, the video was up, and I was live streaming, and I didn't want to take the little bike there. I walked down there, and when I would walk, I had my spots where I would rest. And if y'all remember, I was sitting on the steps, and we was on this side of the street. We always was on that side of the street, but the social services was on that side. And we sat there and we rested. Then I rested by the old Jewish graveyard. And then we walked the rest of the way up the hill to the house. We don't have to do that now. We don't have to have no resting places. That's an improvement. That's an upgrade. But you got people who think that they doing something because they were told. Who told this man to take that bag of gold and bury it? That means the master don't lose nothing, but you haven't made him anything. You're not producing for him. He got the same thing he got when he left. Do y'all understand? How many people do you know that you give them something, and when you see them again, you be wanting to ask them, where is the thing that I've given you? How have you used it to improve your life? They ain't done nothing with it. They ain't done nothing. If you know somebody that's always talking about they want to be an artist, and you give them a book on how to become an artist, and you see him again, and you expect to see some paintings. Especially if you've given them, a canvas and you giving them, some paints. When you come by, you expect to see them done something with it. But when they come by, I don't even know where it is. Why would you give them something else? Y'all know that y'all got children and grandchildren. You see they interested in something. And so you want to build that interest. And you give them something that they can use. But when you see them again, you don't see that something you gave them. Somebody productive would have something to show you. And then you could say, you've done good with this. Let me get you something better. How many people do you know always talking about they're going to be in a band, they're going to be this great guitar player, they're going to be this singer, they're going to be a rapper. And you say, okay, that's what you want to be? Well, look, I'm going to get you a little tape recorder. I'm going to get you a little beat machine and get you started. When you come back by and you say, hey, let me listen to something you did. And they say, huh? Well, I gave you a microphone, a tape recorder, and a beat machine. Let me hear something. You said you was going to be a singer or a guitar player or a rapper or whatever. Let me hear something. Let me hear what you did with the stuff I gave you. And have you been able to get anything else to go with it? You've been able to get a mixer. You've been able to get, some speakers. So you can go around and play with people. What have you done since I seen you last? They go, I don't even know what that stuff is. Why would you reinvest in them? Jesus is saying the same thing. You've been given the gift of grace from God. Jesus is saying, I died for you on the cross. Take your sins and bring them to me, and I will erase them. I will make you approachable to God. I will make you clean in God's eyes. When he come down here and see you ain't took advantage of it, you ain't done nothing, why is he gonna take you? You see how these things tie together? Why is he gonna take you anywhere? Why would Jesus Christ take you anywhere? Why do you think that you are going to paradise? You haven't bared any fruit. You haven't done anything to say, I deserve to go. I deserve. What have you done? Hang on a second, yeah. I just killed a fly or something. Let me get it out of here. And the devil did this. It's not our sermon, and it's okay. You know you're wrong for this. You know you're wrong. Let me get this sucker out again. You know you're wrong for that. I was doing the sermon. Stop it. Alrighty, I'm back. Sorry about that, again. I apologize for that. Son of a gun. So, after a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. The master, he said, you have entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I've gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The Bible also says, those who receive little and do well will be given more. Those who have been given little and do nothing with it will be given nothing. Nothing. Keep that in mind. Those that have been given a little and turn it into more, those who do nothing with it get nothing more. The man with 2 bags also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I've gained 2 more. The master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have seen, you have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." Before we get to the last person, I want y'all to understand the first servant with the 5 bags is going to be given the most power. The person with the 2 bags is going to be given more power. Not as much as the first one, but he'll be respectable. Now let's get down to the last person. Then the man who received 1 bag of gold came. "Master," he said, "I know that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you." You were given that money to produce more. But this servant says, "I know you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered." What is he saying? He's telling his master, "I think you're a cheat and a liar, and you take what's not yours. So I was afraid and hid your money in the ground. I didn't want to go out there and lose it. I didn't want to take the chance to go out there and lose your money and have to deal with you when you came back. So I just hid your money and kept it safe. And here it is. You got nothing more than when you left. But guess what? You got it all." The master replied, "You wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I return, I could at least receive it back with interest." It doesn't matter how the master got where he is. The fact of the matter is, he is the master. And you are under him. So that means it's something lacking in you because you are under. You're not over. You're not the master. It's not your job to worry about what the master's doing or how the master got his money, but you were given the job to take the master's money and go out into the world and earn more. That was what you were supposed to do. Instead, you insult the master. Tell him he doesn't even deserve the money that he was able to give to you. And therefore, you didn't see no reason to go increase it. You just left it the way it is. That's lazy. But there are a lot of people that'll tell you what you should do when you're trying to do something. There are a lot of people that try to tell you what you should do with what you have. But when you ask them what they doing or what they have, they don't have an answer. They don't want to hear it. They get defensive. They get on edge. Why you feel you got the right to ask somebody about what they do with their money? I'm just asking the question. But you got a man that was given 1 bag of gold. He should have been insulted that one was given 5 and one was given 2, and I was only given 1. Well, let me show the master what I can do. I'm going to turn it into 10 or die trying. Instead, he went and hid the money and didn't do anything. So he laid around the whole time. The master was gone. It's almost like a parent going off to work and there ain't no school that day, and you tell your kid, I want you to clean your room and I want you to clean the kitchen. Don't sit here and play video games all day. Don't be on your phone all day. And you come home from work and you can't even cook because they didn't clean the kitchen. So now you got to clean the kitchen before you can cook. And when you cook, you don't cook nothing for them because they didn't clean like you asked them to. Why should you give them anything? Tell them to go make their own meal. You haven't produced anything. Why should you expect to receive anything? The parent went out there and worked so that you could have the benefit of eating a nice meal. They ask you to do a couple things and you can't do it. Why should you get to join in that meal? Why should you benefit from them working? I'm just asking the question. Why should you benefit from them working? Why should you? Why should you benefit at all from them working? David, what do you keep sneaking over here for, man? So the master says, take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Jesus got a point that he bringing home. But once again, he doesn't want non-Christians to get it. That ain't the first time he said that. Jesus describes hell like that. Now remember, the first two servants that produced got to come in and eat heartily. But the one who produced nothing, they threw him out into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Jesus describes hell like that. Darkness. You want a continual burn. You're going to wish you had water. You're going to be gnashing your teeth from the pain. And also from the fact that you know that you messed up. Jesus continued. So when the Son of Man comes into his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on a glorious throne. All of the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes to clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. What did Jesus just say? He's talking about the poor and the needy, people that need help. If you sit there and see that and you can help and you don't, he's going to hold it against you. If you see a stranger that's lost and you don't help him, you see somebody that need clothes and you got extra clothes and you don't help them. When you see somebody sick or in prison, did you go see them? If you do that, you're doing it in his name. That's something that he wants you to do. If you don't do it, he's going to hold it against you. A lot of people don't get that. He said, truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these. You did not do it for me. Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but to the righteous, eternal life. So if you're not doing these things, you ain't going to paradise. He's telling you right here to your face. He's telling you. If you see people in need and you don't help them, if you see people in need and you don't help them, I'll say it a third time. If you see people in need and you don't help them, you're not going anywhere. If you don't do these things, you're not righteous. And if you don't do these things for the right reason, you're not righteous. And you're not going anywhere. Oh, wait a minute. Check this out. I didn't know this was it. Wait a minute. I picked these at random. What does Matthew chapter 25 mean? Well, let's see. Did they agree with me or not? In response to their request, Matthew 24:3, Jesus has been describing future events to his disciples. Some of it must have been difficult to understand as they sat together on the Mount of Olives. The temple stood before them whole and sound. Jesus was alive and well, still there to teach and direct them. None of the terrible things he described had happened yet. Still, Jesus had emphasized one point above all others. When he is away from them, they must live in a state of readiness for his return. They must prepare for him to come back by making the right choices while he is gone. In this chapter, Jesus shares more parables to emphasize that point. This passage is from one of the few chapters in the Bible composed entirely of Jesus' own spoken words. Jesus describes the kingdom of heaven using an example of 10 virgins who took lamps to meet a bridegroom. The word virgin was used at this time to describe an unmarried young woman. It's possible Jesus meant for these young women to be understood as bridal attendants. They have all gone together to wait, perhaps at the bride's house, for the groom to come. They would all go together to the wedding feast, likely at a groom's house. The 10 women have all brought lamps, since the procession through the streets would take place long after dark. So these might have been what modern people think of as torches. Regardless of their shape, these lights need oil to operate. Half of the young women, however, either brought no oil or only enough to last a very short time. The groom is delayed. They all fall asleep until hearing that the groom is approaching. Without oil, the 5 foolish young women are in trouble. They ask to use some of the oil bought by the wiser women, but there will not be enough for all of them. They are forced to run into the night in an attempt to buy oil, causing them to miss the procession. When they arrive late to the wedding feast, they are not welcomed in. Those who were supposed to have been there have entered, and no one is left to vouch for these foolish ones. Jesus emphasizes again that nobody knows the day or hour when he, the bridegroom, will return. His disciples must be prepared. Next, Jesus used a parable which explains part of how the word talent is used in modern English. In this story, a wealthy man going on a journey leaves 3 servants staggering sums of money. Each is intended to steward these funds, ideally returning a profit for their master. In Jesus' era, a talent was a weigh measure of precious metals. Scholars estimate that a single talent could have been the equivalent of nearly 20 years' common labor. The trust invested in these men and the value of their assets is enormous. The first 2 servants do exactly as expected, using all they were given and returning as much as they were able. The third servant buries what he is given and doesn't touch it until the master returns. The first 2 servants are praised by the master, given even greater responsibility and opportunity, and invited to share with him in his joy. The third servant is condemned for his feeble excuse that he was afraid to lose the master's money. In fact, his excuse is dishonest. Had he really feared the master so much, he would have tried to generate profit instead. The third man proves he is not a true servant of all, just a pretender. Whether out of spite, laziness, or bitterness, he chose to ignore an enormous blessing. Having proven himself disloyal and disobedient, the man is thrown out into the dark. The point of this parable is how we as God creations use assets, resources, abilities, skills, and materials he's given us. Not all people are given the same share of talents, but God's assessment is based on whether we faithfully use what we are given. To waste, ignore, or disrespect what God provides for us is sinful. Finally, Jesus describes the moment when the waiting will be over, when he returns to earth with his angels as the king and the judge. This depicts some point during the end times. What follows is a passage notoriously difficult to interpret. Scholars debate whether this is an explicit moment in time, perhaps at the beginning of the millennial kingdom, or a general explanation of each person's eternal fate. Other disputes arise over whether those are being judged are only Gentiles, only non-Christians who survived the tribulation, or all people living on earth at that time. In any case, Jesus sits on his throne and separates these people into 2 groups. The use of shepherding terminology is why this passage is referred to as the parable of the sheep and the goats. What it depicts, however, seems very real. The first group is praised and rewarded since their faithful love for others has been proven their faithful obedience to Christ. Their description echoes of the biblical passages about salvation and election. Such persons are not saved by their good deeds, but their good deeds prove that they do indeed have a saving faith in Christ. Loving other people and meeting their needs is treated by Christ as if those deeds have been done for him personally. In contrast, the other group exhibit deeds but prove they do not have saving faith in Christ. Jesus will condemn them to the eternal fire originally intended for Satan and demons. That group of unbelievers did not serve others during that time of great need. Jesus took that personally as well. As with the first group, the goats echo back Jesus' judgment, but more of an excuse than a confusion. If we had known it was you, they might be saying. That, however, does not change their sin. Their actions have proven their lack of faith, and so they are damned to a horrific eternal fate. Having completed the Olivet course, Jesus will turn to the complexion of his earthly mission, which means a sacrificial death at the hands of his enemies. All right. Now see, I didn't even know that was there because I don't look. But hey, it backs up what I said. I'm happy. That was a surprise. I told you I don't look at these things. So, wow. I know it's late. So, does anybody have any comments on what we talked about tonight? Anybody have any comments on what we talked about tonight? We use Jesus' own words. We use his own words. These were Jesus' own words. Not what some man said. This was his own words. This is what the message that he left for you to hear. Did you hear the message? We have to treat each other like we would treat him if he was here. Are you understanding that? If you see somebody in trouble, you got to do what Jesus would do. He would go help them. You have to go help them. You use the excuse, I don't know them. They're not the same race as me. They don't look like my close neighbors. Jesus is going to hold that against you. And some of y'all are mean to people. Some of y'all are mean. You know, it's hard. It's not easy to be a follower of Christ. You have to walk in his shoes. That's not easy to do. You have to walk in his shoes. It's not easy to do. This is not easy. It's not. And that's why very few are going anywhere, because it's not easy. It's not. It's not easy at all. This is very difficult. And a lot of people are going to fall short. Those of y'all who listen to what I'm saying and take heed, what are you going to do about your relatives that don't? What are you going to do? Some of y'all got mates. What are you going to do when you go and they don't? Some of y'all got children. What you going to do when you go and they don't? Some of y'all got best friends, old palsy wowsies. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when you make it and they don't? This is your chance to try to wake them up. You can't wake them up after he comes back. It's too late then. The same way the ladies fell asleep and got caught slipping, as the young folks say. They got caught slipping. But the women who brought extra oil for their lamps, they were able to show the bridegroomsmen that they were ready to be married. The other 5 were out running around desperately trying to find some oil. And when they came back, they wasn't let in. How many of y'all hear what I say every week and don't pay me a bit of mind? What you gonna do when you wake up one day if he comes back during our lifetime? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Because you're gonna think back and say, you know what? That guy was telling us about this. I wasn't paying him a bit of mind. You know what he's talking about. There just wasn't nothing better on. We just watching him. What are you gonna do as you look over and you see ain't none of you going up? What are you gonna do when you look over and you see your pastor ain't going up, your reverend ain't going up? What are you gonna do? What will go through your mind? That's why I ask you. When Jesus come back, will you be ready or will you be sin heavy? Will you be ready or will you be sin heavy? Will you have the oil so your lamp shine bright when Jesus come back and you're like, here I am, Jesus. Don't forget me. I'm right here shining. Or will you be looking down at the ground ashamed? Because you know he ain't coming for you. You know it. You know he not coming for you. Ain't no need, you know, oh Lord, here we go. And you know everybody else is going up. Everybody else is going up. That's why they say, are you ready? Or are you sin heavy? It's not just a catchphrase. Will you be ready? Don't nobody have any comments tonight? Yeah, maybe I came on too late. Maybe we'll do something tomorrow. Is there anybody here? Hello? Hello? Anybody here? Anybody here? Well, alrighty then. We'll go ahead and end this. Don't have to worry about no copyrights for the night. I hope y'all enjoyed the sermon. I hope y'all took heed to what I had to say. For some of you, it was shocking. But hey, it's Saturday night. Y'all out there doing what y'all doing or have fun, whatever. Hopefully y'all will watch the replay. And as Nia would say, see you soon. As I say, I'll see you tomorrow. Y'all have a good one. Peace, everybody. And we are out.